Back we're live. Welcome everyone to another episode of Daily Freedom. I'm your host, Fernando Lopez, and today I have the honor and privilege to be interviewing Carter Moss, who's a pastor, a writer, a community advocate who's been for 17 years in ministry, who's also a former software developer. Carter, welcome. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. It's be fun.
Yes, definitely. We met a few times in
Yeah.
networking events, and
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about this project that you have taken on, which is creating a community, or extending your community here in OB with your new church.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you on and share some of the visions you have for the future, how you got started, what's your why did you get started in ministry?
Yeah. Thanks.
So more people can know about you and your movement.
Right. Yeah. I grew up in a church, as a lot of people did, kind of parents just kind of bringing me, and I appreciated it, enjoyed it probably more than maybe a lot of people. But I went off to college feeling passionate to do software. Just loved it. I wanted to make video games actually, but ended up kind of going different route, but loved designing software and stuff. But it was actually in college. I went to just a huge public university, Iowa State, and loved it. And in addition to my computer science degree, also really just got a hold of my faith, just started understanding it more as relationship than religion, and more about a relationship with God. And so that just really, just opened a lot of things up, and just started getting passionate about just wanting to impact people, and just realizing that kind of the good news of the Bible-based faith of following Jesus is actually about hope and about grace and these kinds of things. And so, just really wanted to start living that out as, at my job as a software guy, and in the neighborhood that I lived at. End up being in Chicago for a while. And so, but always in the back of my mind, thought maybe I'd want to do this full time, and got plugged into a great church. I was really good at developing people kind of in the business world. And so I did just kind of moved my way up, and just kind of impacting people. And then door opened up to make a career switch, which was quite a change, to go from sitting alone in a cubicle to just being with people all the time and in front of people. And fortunately, my wife was a huge supporter of the switch. I mean, it did come with a pay cut, it's like IT pastoring. And so, but she was super supportive. She said, I always knew you were going to end up doing this one day. I'm like, well, that's cool, because I didn't know that. And so got to do that in Chicago for 9 years, now in Ocean Beach for like 8 years. And and then kind of halfway through that journey, just feel like God really got a hold of my heart with this idea of, you're really meant to make a difference in the neighborhood. I see it really all throughout the Bible. I know even people that aren't into the Bible in church have heard of the Good Samaritan, that idea. I'm actually speaking on it this Sunday. But, just stories like that, they're about, we're meant to love our neighbors. And by the way, that does mean also your literal neighbor, not just people in our lives that may need. It also means my actual neighbors. And so, and the more I studied, realized actually early churches were way back in first century, were known for really making a difference in their communities. In fact, they didn't need a lot of government programs, because it was the churches, the Jesus followers, that were actually meeting a lot of needs and taking care of a lot of people. And still some great places doing that work. I also know sometimes that focus has gotten lost over the centuries and decades. And sometimes people can get this impression or experience of a church where it feels like a country club. It exists just for its own members. We pay our dues. We're here to kind of get our benefits. And I don't think that's what God ever meant for it to be. And so, so anyway, more and more hoping that just churches and individuals kind of embrace that call to kind of love thy neighborhood, as I like to say. So, I
love that. It's Chicago for, you started in Chicago, and now here. And then let's talk a little bit, I think, about the support from your wife, because I think that it's probably, it's more important that people don't know that, has been, the wind beneath your wing, so to speak. How important has it been to, to be with someone that supports your vision? And you can speak from the standpoint of a man, because I know you also do men's groups
Yeah, yeah,
and men,
yeah.
looking to um, improve the relationship with their spouses or looking to get into one. How important is it to be with someone who's supportive of one's vision,
Yeah.
even if you didn't know what he
I
was
know
doing?
she knew, but she knew, which is great. Yeah, we have been married 25 years now, so
Oh
we know
wow.
each other. So I have it figured out. No, I'm just kidding. I have a ton to learn. Some weeks I'm like, am I still new to marriage? Because I don't know what I'm doing. But no, I do think, yeah, a huge part that people, don't always think about is really the believing in each other. And I know we talk about you want to support each other's dreams, which is important, and that is what this was. But I think a little known piece of it that we have found as a helpful marriage tool is, and I know it's something you and I have in common, is we're really passionate about helping people figure out how they're wired up. Just all the disc, Enneagram, 5 love languages,
Yeah.
all the stuff. I'll do any of it. Maybe not the Facebook quizzes, which Disney princess are you, which Harry Potter house are you? All those can be helpful too. But so I love digging into how I'm wired up. There's this beautiful way that the book of Psalms in the Bible puts it, Psalm 139. It says, God knit you together in your mother's womb.
Wow.
So it even ties into your faith. If I would say, I want to know how I'm knit together. So anyway, we have found then when you're together for life with someone in marriage, it's, well, I want to discover how you're knit together too. So I think what's cool is she knows my gifts and my biggest weaknesses, but my passion, strengths, what makes me come alive, what drains me. And then I know that for her, we're still learning. But so that way she's able to say, hey, I think this thing would be more life-giving for you, and this aligns better with how you're wired up. And so that's a value that you don't always think about. By the way, it ties into parenting as well. Understanding our kids' Enneagram number and love languages has helped us parent each of our 3 kids differently, because we know how they're wired up uniquely. So yeah.
A little brief summary, if you could give to folks listening, watching, what Enneagram is and what 5 love languages is.
Yeah. 5 love languages, real simple. There's a great book out there called it. And then now they have 5 love languages for teens and kids. And so it's become a whole line, but very simple. Just talks about, it's kind of the way that you most like to receive love, which is different, for each of us, whether it's gifts or through words of affirmation, quality time, and physical touch and acts of service. Yep. So that's helpful, because we tend to just do for other people what we like getting most. And you think about how sad if a couple has starting to have marital problems, because over 10 years it's like he's like, all I do is buy her gifts and she never appreciates it. And then it turns out, yeah, because my love language is quality time and you're never here hanging out with me, right? Something so simple that you could be on opposite pages. So that's a helpful thing to discover. I think there's free tests online to figure out what yours is. And then Enneagram, a lot written on it now. My wife and I have just gotten into it over the last 2 or 3 years, and there's debates about where it comes from and stuff. And I don't think that's worth the time. It's just consider it another valuable tool. Things like DISC and Myers-Briggs have like 4 kind of categories you can fall in. What I like with Enneagram is there's 9 of them, and it's more about how do you respond to challenges in your life and more about what motivates you. So that's what's different than DISC and some of the other ones. But so I find them super helpful, and just understanding it's just 9 different numbers and kind of what goes with each number. But it's been helpful again to understand our kids and each other. And I think it ties into my faith, even of how do I love and serve people the best and understand how God wired them up. So I like all those tools. I think they're valuable. So.
Fascinating. Familiar with all of them except for Enneagram. I may have taken a test. I would like to revisit that.
I think it's worth it. It gets way more in depth, I think, than some of the other ones, and it can be more unique to you. That there's 9 options versus maybe 4. So a lot more nuanced.
And in regards to the 5 love languages, I had a client yesterday take the test online, and as soon as she was done, she gave me the results. And for gifts, it was the lowest for her as a love language. And then she had an aha moment that she was realizing why she felt, or it was another confirmation of how little love or appreciated she felt when her husband gave her gifts, and she felt that she needed to, be bright about it, be happy or
Oh, right.
grateful. But now she had like a validation of why she didn't feel,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
her top love language is physical touch.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend anyone listening, watching, go to just Google 5 love languages test or quiz.
Yeah.
Come right up.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit about this word that you've been sharing, and maybe your definition of how you relate to the word faith?
Faith.
What
Yeah.
is faith
Faith.
for someone that may have not have heard the word, but it has not been thinking about what it means in their lives, or what is faith?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. I think I would say, faith is really, what do you really believe in, put your trust in? For some people, what do you build your life around even? And I would argue that everybody has faith in something. So some people's faith is it's all in themselves, right? That I have everything within me and those kinds of things. Some have faith fully in science. Some have faith in religion. I actually don't really like the word religion. I know people are like, oh, you're really religious. It's like, I guess, according to probably how you understand that word, but I just think over time that word's gotten a lot of baggage. And so that's why I like understanding a relationship with God is what I think God was about. And I would say is what Jesus was about. But yeah, so I think it's choosing, what are you going to put your faith in? And, there's a lot to consider. That could be a whole separate podcast, but right, of kind of what are you gonna put your faith in? But I think some things to ask, am I putting my faith in something that can last, that can't change? I think a lot about, let's say, like a pro athlete. There's all these stories where their entire life has been built towards making it into NBA, NFL, or baseball, all their faiths in my skill, my talent, my ability, and then you get a career-ending injury. And now everything my faith was in is gone. And so that's why then all of a sudden they're scrambling, right? Struggling of, well, what do I build my life around now? And so, I would want to put my faith as something that's unchanging and something that's trustworthy. Obviously, some of the horrible stories of cults and cult leaders and stuff, well, faith was in somebody that really wasn't worthy of the trust and the faith. And so I would argue, I don't know if any individual person even can fully carry, I wouldn't want people to put their faith in me, because I'm just a flawed person too, that's going to make mistakes and a human. And so that's where I would land on putting my faith in something more, supernatural. But yeah.
And for folks listening and watching that they haven't had, so I have had experience in growing in religion, church, Seventh-day Adventist.
Yeah.
And my parents were very involved. So I grew up also being involved, and loved like it all. It was great.
Yeah.
I there was a lot of helping, a lot of neighborly acts that I saw the church taking part in, and the neighbor and the members.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about, say, for someone that did not have that upbringing, but they want community, or they want to be more neighborly? What is something they could, they could start, maybe, start decisions they can start making, as far as who do they need to become if they want to be more involved in community? And then after their decisions of, okay, I need to become more ... then who could they reach out to start forming those say relationships that can be long lasting in their own neighborhoods?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I would say it's, you got to start from a place of really care about where you live. Just really, I know some people, it's like, this is the city I always wanted to live in, right? So they finally moved and they made it. A lot of people want to get to California. I made it and I'm here. I'm thankful to be out here. Some are like, this is my hometown I grew up in. And others, it's like, yeah, I'm just here for the job. My job moved me here, didn't want to be here. I would say no matter where you're at, and whether you're just there for a few months or you plan to stay there for 20 years, really care about where you live. first. You've heard people say that, hey, leave it better than you found it. And we talk about that with a room or something you borrow from somebody. But what if that's true of an entire neighborhood? Did you leave it better than you found it? And I have a great story on that from Chicago if you want to hear it. But anyway, so leave it better than you found it, and knowing, hey, every neighborhood has beauty in it and great things about it, and every neighborhood struggles. And so even the poorest of neighborhoods has a lot of beautiful things happening. Even the richest, wealthiest of neighborhoods, we have a few of those around San Diego, has some, I would say, struggle the same amount as other ones. They're just, it's easier to hide the struggles, right? It's different. The drug problems are more expensive and more hidden than happening in mansions versus out on streets or whatever it is, right? So if every neighborhood has beauty and has pain, then wherever you live, this is where I start, is by listening to your neighborhood. So I really just kind of learned this idea over time. A big part of your job, in fact, most of your job, is you want to listen to people because you're trying to find what do they most need. And what if you could do that with your town? And I know we both care about that in Ocean Beach. And so you can really listen to what are the things people in your town celebrate? What do they love and value? We could list those off in OB. What are their biggest pain points, just even as a town, as a neighborhood? And I think, in the old days, that might come through reading the little neighborhood newspaper that comes out. And nowadays it might be getting on the Facebook groups of the neighborhoods and, and on Nextdoor. And I totally understand some people are like, man, I tried that and it's just a big negative session. And so I got off. I get it. I think about doing that every other day. But to me, just for me, the value outweighs the negativity, because I want to stay in touch with the pulse of what is it, what are people hurting? What do they most want and see in the neighborhood? And honestly, that's led to just a ton of stuff I've been able to do over the last 8 years in OB. But it started not by, hey, I have some great ideas. Here's some stuff I learned in Chicago. And if I were to start doing that in OB, people would be like, what are you doing, dude? That doesn't fit here. That doesn't make sense. It's a totally different neighborhood. And so I tried to start by just listen to your neighborhood and learn what they need, and because each one is unique. So
I love that. Can you tell us the story about Chicago, and then I'd like to share a quick story about the care about where you live.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I lived in a great subdivision, kind of basically where I raised my kids. And for some people, this would be nightmare, total cookie cutter. Every house, there's like 5 models of home, and it's just totally like they're just all the same, packed really close together. The developer, though, is actually a Christian guy who wanted to build a neighborhood that returned back to 50s and 60s. The design of neighborhoods actually led to Connection neighborhood by having bigger front porches and no privacy fences allowed. And so that forced people to spend time right in their front yard, the opposite of what most of us want to do. Pull in your garage, shut the garage door, only be in my backyard in the privacy area. This encouraged people to be out front. Wow. So it was set up for that anyway. And then me and a lot of other neighbors who kind of share my same faith, we like, hey, let's kind of get involved, try to make things happen in our neighborhood. So anyway, over 9 or 10 years, I guess, of kind of living there. Yeah, we ended up starting like little t-ball league in there, clothing swaps. I think 4 or 5 major holidays of the year we put on the community events. I mean, like they do in a place like OB, but this was within a subdivision. And started having kids could put on plays. There's a little coffee shop right in the subdivision. I think I didn't realize it at the time. Now I can look back and say, wow, I think we left that neighborhood better than we found it. And I think we helped create a lot of community there. And so I'm not saying I had a master strategy when I just started doing things with neighbors. Oh yeah, we had adult guys who were out playing flag football on Sunday afternoons, and and just had a Halo night, Xbox night at somebody's house, like coming up with all this stuff. But just realize, if you actually get a group of neighbors that cares about their neighborhood, and I've seen this in Ocean Beach as well, there's a lot of power in that and a lot you can do. So I guess I just share that as an encouragement to people. You don't have to live in a subdivision designed for that. You can, anywhere you live, if just you and a few other like-minded neighborhoods are even a little bit intentional, right? Just start with some barbecues, with some game nights, and it can really grow from there. But it just takes people caring about where they live, right? And then actually being intentional with it.
Can you talk a little about say, going from being a person who lives, they have their own work, their own job, they have their own routine, and they keep to themselves, and then others are more, extroverted. They feel so. Maybe some, have you encountered that it's sometimes the personality type that gets together because they're more common, or there's more commonality there, or it can, this caring, coming together, and of a group of people that care about the neighborhood, they includes also introverts as well as
Yeah.
extroverts. What have you noticed?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, for sure. Because my wife's introverted, so it's really helped us learn a lot about each other. And one misconception I have, by the way, growing up, was that extroverts are really good with people, introverts aren't good with people, and actually has nothing to do with how good you are relationally. It's more, does it energize you or drain you? So I could be out all 7 nights a week with people. My wife tells me, what's the one thing you want me to go to this week? I'll go to that, and she's amazing with people. Actually, at a party, she's more the life of the party than me. I love to just hang out and listen and be, but she's more the fun one people want to engage with. So you would think extrovert, but it's, hey, I only want one of those a week, because it just takes a lot of energy out. So anyway, we need introverts. They're amazing with people, but yeah, they have to, it's harder for them to I don't want to do a bunch of neighborhood stuff on top of my busy life. So I would say part of it is, that's where you try to lean on each other's strengths. Like in a neighborhood, if you're going to throw, let's say, a little block party where you live, find the extroverted person to be the inviter, right? They would pick you to do that, right? Because you would go door to door and you'd get everyone excited for it, but at the party, we need the introvert, because they will sit with someone at a table maybe the whole time and have this great deep conversation, and that person will feel so loved and valued. Me and you would work the room at the barbecue and make sure everyone had someone say hi to them. So it's like, right, so we need both. And find the organizer, detailed person who makes sure not everybody just brings a bag of chips and then you don't have anything else, but then find the fun ones that'll come up with the game. So I think that's part of what's cool too. The more you learn, back to how everybody's wired, the more you learn your gifts. And so I would say that for people too, like, oh man, I'm not the organizer, I'm not the inviter. Yeah, but what are you, right? Like I've learned, hospitality, which by the way is a gift, I think a spiritual gift out of the Bible too. But, realizing like, I don't have gift of hospitality, love to connect with people, but when there's certain people's homes I go to that always have a great spread out, right? They're always thinking, hey, I prepared, here's some snacks. The place looks nice, smells nice, feels good. They know how to welcome. They've got a variety of drinks to offer you. I'm like, man, I don't even think of that. Like, I'm like, hey, have a seat and I'll get you, an ice water or something. But so when I see people with gift of hospitality, it's like, man, we need that. Like, you could be the ones helping us put on parties and barbecues and those kinds of things. And the accountant, you'd think, is the boring person or whatever at the party. Sorry, just kidding about the stereotype. It's like, no, but we need you. Like, we need your detailed mind. Otherwise, a bunch of us will just float around home parties and nothing will have any details. So anyway, just trying to say, that's again why important. Learn how you're wired up, but use it, because none of them are more valuable than the others. We need all of those mix of gifts. And when they all come together, there's a metaphor in the New Testament Bible that when everyone uses their spiritual gifts together, that it's like the human body, and it was, and Paul is the author of it. He says, the eye can't say to the hand, I don't need you. And the head can't say to the legs, I don't need you. And of course, we know what it's like when the human body's broken. You're just limited in what you can do. So, but the more you bring everyone's, I always hope I'm not the armpit, by the way, but, but the more everybody knows, because it's like, well, I need all the parts of my body that you can't see, and I need all the parts that you can, and when they all work together. So, yeah. So I think that's a great metaphor.
Yeah, totally.
Works, right?
There's a role for every person. Can we chat a little about people that want to be in community, but they have an aversion to their perception of the Bible or religion?
Yeah.
Can they still be in community? Can they still be in a faith-based community if they don't know much about the Bible, they don't want to know, have you encountered people like that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I think apart from faith, I mean, a lot of ways to get connected nowadays. Meetup is huge, Facebook groups, right? All these kinds of things, starting your own. You've had some cool ideas of things you've started, and I've started different ones. I like building ones around, hey, let's have a group that watches Monday Night Football, to have a group that watches The Bachelor. I mean, you can do all sorts of stuff, right? Book clubs and watch parties now and all that. But yeah, I think if you want a faith community, I mean, I'm sure people have had some bad experiences, and I'm sorry for that. But I think all churches, at least within the sort of the Christian faith, are called to be welcoming and inclusive, and anybody's welcome. I try to say on Sundays, hey, even if you're here just kind of exploring faith and you're not sure what you think about it, we're glad you're here. This is a safe space for it. So hopefully you can find places out there that welcome questions. I know sometimes people have this perception of, oh, those people already know what they believe, they're convinced. Back to the country club thing, that's just for the people that are in. And that's why so many people say, I feel spiritually lost, like I don't fit anywhere. It's like, good, that's exactly what we want, is spiritual seekers, people that are looking for the truth. And let us share with you some of the things we've learned already, so that you can process that and decide where you land on it. I mean, that's my goal, as a church. So yeah, I think there's a lot of great inclusive faith communities out there. If you find one that isn't, I would say don't get discouraged and give up, because I think there's a lot of great ones out there. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And so you've been now hosting and having your meetings here in OB. Can you share a little bit about what's been like as a leader, starting something new, and what your vision is for the next few months or years?
Yeah.
And any type of also support that you're seeking for to have this idea that I'm getting from you is care about your neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's in love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
So what has it been like to have this movement and you bringing people together, sharing your vision, and what type of people could come and support?
Yeah. I would say, super thankful for the churches I've been a part of and that invested in me in Chicago and in Ocean Beach. So forever grateful for those. And so now, as I try to start one on my own, definitely scary, and it grows your faith, that's a faith, but also exciting. And so, trying to take things that I've learned and continuing to learn and try to, just kind of what kind of faith community would I form, out of this. And definitely want it built around, including and loving people. Love your neighbor as yourself. Someone famous said that once. It was Jesus. But so starting there and loving your neighbor, then also includes loving your neighborhood. Again, I think it's that idea of I'm really motivated about wanting to help people live out their faith in practical ways. So that's important to me. I'm not saying it's more important than other things. There's great teachers and preachers on Sundays that help you understand things about the Bible in depth, which is huge. My angle is more, I do a little bit of that, but then really help you understand how do you live it out practically. Because I think people just want to know what does faith do for my life? Is it just an intellectual exercise? That's why I would tell people, like, hey, if you decide to sort of, in my case, make Jesus part of your life, you're not really joining a religion or subscribing to a theology. You're joining a lifestyle and a community. And the lifestyle is, let's live out the ways and values of Jesus, and the community is, let's connect with other people. So definitely that's part of what drives me. I just want to keep it practical. And so part of that, we talk about how do we sort of be the hands and feet of Jesus? How do we actually be a church and not just have it? I know people think of church as it's a building you go to. That's not how that word was ever used in the Bible. So it was always about the people. It was about a community of people that share this faith. And so, so how do we be that and live it out? And so that's where we start, and then just try to serve. And so far, I mean, I'm pretty new, only a couple months into this new one. So we're figuring out what all that's going to look like, but it's cool already seeing people that are motivated to do that. And honestly, I've been so thankful for the people in our community, whether it's town council, Main Street Association, business owners, that, just religion, faith, church, not their thing at all, but they're really supportive of what we're doing. And I think it's because they know that we care. We care. And here's the real trick to care, to caring, especially in the religious world, is caring without agenda. And also a good reminder for multi-level marketing people too, but just making sure that we care, right? I mean, because people want to know, do you really care about me, or are you just selling me something? And it's, no, I really care about you. Also, if you're interested, right, I have other things for you. And I know you're like that. You care for people deeply. You want to genuinely help people. And that's why also our career is about doing that. But yeah, so I think it's, we go out, care for your town. And I think people see that, hey, you want to help make OB a better place. I'm like, I genuinely do. I mean, my faith drives that, but I genuinely do. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It reminds me of love is a verb. I heard that somewhere.
Yeah.
That love is a verb.
Right. For sure. Yeah. It's a verb, action word. Yeah. Yeah. I just spoke on that last Sunday.
Really?
So it's good timing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's great. Yep.
I'd like to share a quick story with you,
Yeah.
and get your input, on it. So when I had a friend, I have a friend from childhood, and he started doing this thing for unhoused people, which is called in Brazil called Joy in the Streets. And he would, with his Catholic church, with the youth, go to dress up in funny ways, maybe clowns, and come in and tell jokes to unhoused people, and just have them laugh. And what happened actually is, within a few weeks, they start meeting the same people, creating relationships, learning their names. Some of this, he started having the ideas to connect them with the families. So he started, and the group started actually being like a bridge to inspiring the person to be part of a community, or be part of their family, the original family. And then they started having, send-offs to, putting them in buses to go meet the family again, and getting the connection going. And when I heard about that years ago, I was living in Orlando, and I had a real estate office. And so a man approached me, asked me for money so he could stay at a shelter. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to also help you beyond this. Would you like to, do something, like have your dreams come true, whatever, remember those dreams? What are your dreams? So he shared a little bit, and then gave him my card, gave him some money. And then he called me 30 days later and said, hey, I still like for you to help me. So I give him, a part-time job. He would come and write some signs, real estate signs for me. And then I would have him also watch The Secret, which is a documentary about like having good thoughts and visualizing a future that one wants to live. And within about 6 months, he told me, you know what, I think I'm ready to be back with my family, help me find them. And it had been 10 years that they had not talked. So found the family. The next day he came and talked to the sister for the first time in 10 years. And it was very emotional, man. It was amazing. So, and then he decided, okay, I'm going, help me, Fernando. So I started, we had 30 days. Okay, 30 days, you're going to be in a bus from Orlando to North Carolina. And so in 30 days, we got him ready. I think he was sleeping under a bridge. And so one of the things is to get him clothes, wash any clothes he wanted to keep. And then I was like, man, let's do something, together. What do you like to do? And he told me about movies. Like, it had been years since he'd been to the movie. So we went to the movies, watched the movie together. And man, as I was going through that, and there's a reason why I'm sharing this story, because I think there's something there that could be duplicatable for business owners and also helping the community. So there's a punchline for this, or maybe a question for the people listening and watching. So as that was happening, I was transforming myself. I was getting to know, like, wow, I met this man 6 months ago, and now he's different. He's the same, but now he has this motivation or inspiration about life. He's going from being unhoused or homeless to now being a caregiver to his brother, handicapped brother. So it was something he told me. He was, you know what, Fernando, I need to go. My family, my brother needs me. He's handicapped, and he didn't. I don't know if it was a new handicap or if it was a no, but it's like, wow. So he's going out from being someone that was not, I guess, was looking for help. Now he's giving help.
Yeah.
He's empowered to give help. So that happened. It was amazing. One of the best years of my life. And I started thinking, what if each business owner were to sort of adopt someone like that person, and his name is Robert. Or does anyone would adopt, but not adopt in the legal sense of thing, but give him like a small, some easy job once a week. They get some money, then start having the relationship, building. And I think if one business owner would do that for one person a year, it could transform how people that are going through transition, living on the streets could then, could be like in 10 years, it might be, close to over. That could be like a snowball effect. And I mean, there were boundaries, he would come to my office. He was very polite. He was very cordial. He would leave after a few hours, once a week. And there was one of my assistants. She started taking him to church.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Miss Laura to take him to church, and so the things were happening. I started realizing that people maybe don't need money is not number one for this type of people. They need to feel like seen or acknowledged. To be reminded what family is, what community is. What's your take on that? Like, do you think it's something that a model that could be rolled out to business owners to start thinking about what little jobs they could offer to people like that and start?
Yeah, I love that idea. I think that is the key to it, is to start small. I heard this great phrase once, and I don't know who said it first, but it's do for one what you wish you could do for everyone.
Okay.
And because I think where so many people end up doing nothing is, like you and I could show up to OB and be like, I don't know how to solve the unhoused problem. Like, I don't know, it's a big issue, and just seeing this too hard, and politics and this or that. You don't have to solve those. Start with one, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. Because I agree, if everybody was just helping one, if every person of faith did, if everyone who cared about their neighborhood did, if every business owner, I mean, you're so right. It would snowball from there. I think programs are still important. I mean, there's still, sometimes we need buildings and programs that can feed 100 people at once. So to me, it's kind of both and. But we know that to get a long-term result, right, just having people show up at programs, it doesn't work as well as having one person really invest in them. I think that's why AA does sponsors and stuff, right? And that kind of thing, is it's the one-on-one is where the real life changes, right? So I think let's start small, let's start one-on-one, and know that it is making a big impact in the world when you just start with one.
Start with one. I love that. What is one message you'd like to send out to people? It's January, in the context of new year, new opportunity to create a new life, new beginnings.
I would say that there's always, no matter your age or your life stage, or your current economic status or your relationship status, that there is always new hope ahead. And there's always new opportunities ahead. I tell people from the faith perspective, I say, hey, God's not done with you yet. And he always has new hope, new plans on the horizon. And I know it's hard. I have several friends struggling with all sorts of stuff, losing someone they love, or infertility, unemployment, which I've been in that one, just all kinds of different things, but just always knowing that there's there's still hope ahead. Read this great definition of what despair is. Despair or hopelessness. It's believing that tomorrow is going to be exactly like today. And I think we had to fight that during COVID. I had to fight that. Like, what if tomorrow's the same as today? And it was for a little while, but not forever. And so hope says, hey, tomorrow could be different. This year can be different. This next season of life can be different and better. So I believe there's hope. My faith drives that a lot. I believe God always has new plans, new hopes for you. But I really think, anybody can really grab onto that. So. Yeah.
Any favorite verses?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think one that shaped a lot of what I do lately or over the last few years, but I'd never really known it before in my life. I'm always discovering new things in the Bible. It's a great in-depth book, but there's a great one in Jeremiah in the Old Testament, and talking about a group of people that were forced to live in a city they didn't want to live in. Babylon, and God says, here's what I want you to do in that city. I want you to invest in it. And he says, seek the peace and prosperity of the city that I've sent you, because when it prospers, you'll prosper. And it was like, that's really cool. So in some spiritual way, your neighborhood's prospering ties into you prospering as well, right? And I think it does in a practical way. Hey, the better my town does, the higher my property value is, right? The better the schools are. So it actually, God was right. It comes true in practical ways, but I think even in kind of spiritual ways. So that would be one. And I think another would be this. It's a New Testament one, letter from Paul, but talks about this idea of make it clear to everyone that you meet that you're working with them and not against them. And that one's important to me because I know, again, sometimes Christians or churches over time have become more known for what they're against instead of what they're for. So I like to lead with, here's things that we're for. And it's what I believe God was super clear, not one obscure verse, but a common theme throughout the Bible. He's absolutely for orphans, widows, the poor and under-resourced, anyone who's hurting, and anyone who feels like an outcast or ostracized. Those are repeated hundreds of times through the New Testament. So let's lead with what we're for and not just what we're against. So I like verses that remind me of that too. So yeah.
I love that a lot. I remember first time that growing up in with my family in the small church we would go to, we had this thing of reading the Bible in a year. So every year, every beginning of the year, there was this thing, okay, we're going to read the Bible. To read the Bible in a year, you need to read so many pages a day.
Yeah.
So there was one year that actually completed the thing.
Wow.
And I think I was 14 years old, 14, 15. And I remember reading Proverbs and being like, wow, this book is great. This is my favorite so far. And even after I finished the entire thing, I was like, Proverbs,
yeah. It's called the Book of Wisdom, right? Because it really is wisdom for daily life. And yeah, it's so good.
And I was always surprised. I chuckle because this is going out, be in the internet forever, perhaps. But what I never heard anyone speak a sermon or have a talk about the book of Songs of Solomon from the front of the church. Why is that? Why for those who don't know, the book of Psalms is like poetry from a lover to another, a beloved to another. And it's very, I guess it talks about the body, of the lover's body compared to the mountains.
Exactly.
And it's really beautiful. So I was like, why don't they talk?
I know, right?
Why don't they preach about this?
Yeah. It's funny, people don't realize the Bible's kind of racy, but that book, Song of Solomon, I remember, there's sometimes in youth group they would say, hey, don't read this yet. And of course, all that did was make all of us turn right to it and read it. And but I mean, meant to be this beautiful description, right, of love and intimacy. But I agree, never heard a sermon on it. Now you challenge me. Now I need to see. Can I come up with some stuff to teach from that? That's good. Yeah.
Before we close this, because it's amazing, and I want to respect time as well. A little tip on parenting. What would you tell Something that they could start viewing their relationship to self, to their kids for a prosperous relationship.
Yeah, I would say with your kids, the main thing is, as I kind of mentioned earlier, really understand how they're wired up. They're unique. If you can really empower them how they're unique, help them. I mean, so many of us have been through counseling and therapy because we have this negative self-image. And I desperately didn't want my kids to have that. I want them to see whatever their strengths and weaknesses are, to see that as valuable. So if you can help them see that, and just intentional time with them. I know sometimes people say, well, I don't really do quality time with my kids, but I don't do quantity time, but I do quality, right? Quality is better over quantity. I'm sorry, but in parenting, it's got to be both. I mean, you just have to be into. I think in any relationship that you want to develop, I can't just see my wife once a month and say, yeah, but that was a really quality one night. It's got to be quantity and quality. But I'd say for yourself is give yourself lots of grace as a parent. So many parents so hard on themselves. If you're like, man, I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing, just know secretly that's how every other parent feels. That all feel like they're failing, don't know what we're doing. I've actually just starting to become empty nester, almost launched all three of my kids. I've got one out of college and two still in college. And realize, it took this long till you finally get to start to find out, how did I do at parenting? So it's hard. You have to go the whole first like 5 years. Like, I have no idea. I mean, you don't get feedback from toddlers, teenagers. So if you're like, I have no idea if I'm doing well or not. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to really get that feedback. You'll see as they become adults, how did I do? And so just give yourself a ton of grace. It's okay to not feel like you know what you're doing. So I would encourage you to not do it alone then. That's why I love, we have parenting groups, find some moms, find some dads or some couples, go through it together. Because I think the biggest thing most parents want to know is, am I alone in this? Am I the only one that feels this way? And it's great to find out that you're not.
Awesome. Carter, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. And for those of you watching, listening, there are links below to follow Carter and find out more about the church that he is having here in Ocean Beach. Thanks again.
Yeah.
And everyone listening, watching, share this, like, comment, and till next time, bye for now.